it's a moment that allows them permission to sort of think about and talk about a future. He has Edwin in his ear, kind of saying one thing and getting reelected. And Joy and I were just like, yes, yes, put it on. That's great. Every time I watch it, I cry. He wasn't sure where he stood with her back at her birthday. And now he does.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Heart in Motion podcast. I'm so excited to welcome back to the podcast this season, Allie Devereaux, who is a writer and consulting producer for When Calls the Heart. Welcome back, Allie.
Thanks for having me back. Always fun.
I was so excited to see that you were writing episode 4. We know we've got a birthday party coming up. It's really interesting, which I want to get into later, that you also got to do the birthday party last season for Allie. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But we just finished watching episode 4, and I thought I would do this one a little bit different because as I was watching the episode, there were a lot of really fun little one-liners that really stood out. And there's so many more, but given our time, I thought I would highlight a few and just kind of let those set the basis for each of our questions, if you're okay with that.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Okay. So the first quote, which we actually got to see this in a little bit of a preview before the episode, was Nathan as he and Elizabeth are walking down Main Street. Nathan makes the comment, "If it was our kids, what would you do?" And we catch a glimpse of Elizabeth. It kind of throws her off guard that he makes that comment. And I don't know if I just dreamed it up, but it's almost like he then reacts to her as well when she just starts talking about it like she's already thought about it. So I'm curious, what does that moment unlock for their relationship? And what does Nathan's smile at the end tell you about what he's already thinking emotionally?
Oh, totally. Yeah. It's cool that you kind of picked up on that because it was like really intentional. Like right from the get-go, like Joy, the whole team of writers, like we talked about it, like wanting in this sort of time around this area in the season, just to really kind of, it's like a check-in with them to sort of see they're in this relationship. Obviously, they're going to be thinking about a future because when you're in a relationship with someone, you're thinking about the future and what can be. And this is like a moment that naturally comes up and sort of gives them permission to both like be excited about it
Yeah.
and just sort of think about it. And it's also like fun for the audience. We're hoping to sort of sit with them in that excitement that it's really just happens naturally in the moment, but it's a moment that allows them permission to sort of think about and talk about a future for them as a couple.
We loved it. And then the handhold at the end was a nice little addition too. Did you write
So
that in the
beautiful.
script?
It was, I mean, it was not written like that. It was like, they hold hands. But of course, Alysse just takes that and runs with it. And it's
Yes.
so beautiful and becomes like just such a cool romantic shot with
Uh-huh.
like framing the kids in front of them too. So good.
It's always fun to see what she dreams up from what you guys put on the paper. So,
I love watching the dailies for that exact reason. When I see, I'm like, oh my gosh, sometimes, even last season, the dance in the church, and we talked about it a little bit
yeah.
before too, that moment, I mean, it's a new way totally to see the church that we've never seen before. So it's just, yeah, completely surprised me.
Yeah, and for those of you who haven't checked out the countdown that we do each year, one of the top 5 moments, I think it was number 4, was Nathan and Elizabeth dancing in the church. Allie wrote that episode, but your collaboration then, that writing and then translating to Alysse, she moved it into the church and created this beautiful lighting, and it's just fun to see the collaboration that you guys pull off. So,
It lets me experience it like a Hardy too, we write it and we envision it, but often, and that's why, film and TV is so fun, is like the way we envision it and then the way it's like shot, we get to be surprised and like excited and it can make us, yeah, feel it like a Hardy.
oh, that's awesome. So, another quote from between Elizabeth and Nathan. Elizabeth, this time, they're sitting on the front porch, and she has a little flirty moment where she scoots in and she says, "Have I told you lately how impeccable that I think you are?" Which was a nice little callback to one of their words. What's fun about this one, or maybe not fun if people were wanting to see where it was going to go, is that Allie interrupts that moment. But watching that dialogue, what was so interesting is that Allie is seeking advice and Nathan just lays back. and keeps his mouth shut the whole time and just and Elizabeth at this point doesn't even have to ask permission to give advice. She just coaches Allie through the whole process. So why was it important in this moment for Elizabeth to do all of the talking?
Well, like when we talked about this sort of whole storyline of like leading into like Allie planning a birthday party, she really is kind of being the Elizabeth. Like this is something Elizabeth would do for her friends. If she heard it was her friend that didn't have a birthday party and their birthday was coming, of course she'd jump in and throw this party. So it's really like a bit of Elizabeth's influence on Allie and seeing like Elizabeth in that role, like sort of molding who Allie's becoming as a young woman. And we see Elizabeth's influence. So you're kind of with Nathan in that moment of watching, like, this is their thing. This is like Elizabeth, how Elizabeth has influenced Allie. And she's going to her being like, help me because I have to throw a party in one day. And Elizabeth's like, I've been there. I can do that.
Yeah.
And so it's just a nice moment of seeing kind of that side and how what Allie has learned from Elizabeth and some of those fun moments of it as well.
Yeah. And it even reminds me of, last season when she was needing that advice and Elizabeth was remembering back to when she was 13 and
Hmm.
the heartbreak. And was she 13 or she 15? I don't remember.
Yeah,
Come
I
on.
think she was 15. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm like,
And
pull out the Bible, Allie.
yeah, but
Yeah. And so it's just been fun to watch their dynamic just slowly just kind of progress. It's exciting to watch. So,
yeah, but I was happy to get that impeccable reference in there too, because that was, a little hearty Easter egg of the very
thank
first
you.
time she said it was written in his book in the inscription of her his copy of her book. She wrote it
Yeah.
and she thought he was impeccable and always love a callback whenever we can squeeze it in.
And then the kiss at the end of season 11. So is that the
Hmm.
third time?
Yeah, I think this is the third impeccable, maybe fourth.
Okay.
Yeah, and whenever
Well,
we can squeeze it in, we will.
that's right. And people are going to pick up on it, right? So,
Yeah.
all right, another little quote. We get a classic trope where, a flirty little moment where somebody says accidentally it's a date and then walks it back. It's a plan. And that is
Hmm.
between Allie and Jacob. Allie and
Oh,
Oliver, which was a fun little moment for them. So, first of all, Allie finds out that it's Oliver's 18th birthday party. She goes to work. So, here's my question. How did you end up with both birthday parties in both of these seasons?
I mean, just lucky, I guess. I was very excited. I mean, I think after having so much fun writing the birthday episode last year, I think Joy just like saw my eyes go like as
Oh,
we
yeah.
started talking about it, and I think she was like, "I'm not going to take that away from Allie. She's so excited. How could I deny her how much fun she'd have writing?" So I was very excited when it was actually officially assigned to me because I did feel a little bit of ownership on it right
Yeah.
from the beginning because
Yeah.
I love it. I love a birthday. So yeah, it was Joy's decision, but loved it.
And so then there are who came up with the idea that when Oliver shows up, he's going to actually be celebrating 18 different birthdays out on all of the tables. That was amazing. Just loved that moment.
Yeah, that was fun. That came out of just like a conversation really early on. Like I that idea actually is what prompted the idea to get to the birthday because we had a few new like amazing writers joining the writers room this year. So early on we had like a lot of conversations about what are our favorite moments, some of our favorite moments of previous seasons. And I was talking about season 12 and in actually Joy's first episode of last season, episode 6, where they share the cupcake. And I was like, I just love that Allie Oliver moment where she just is like thinking about like the life she's had compared to Oliver, where Oliver never had a birthday party. And she just has this moment of thinking about that. So when she finally gets the opportunity to throw him a birthday party, of course she's going to go all in. I mean, she wants to throw him a circus.
I
That's
sort of say
how,
this is maybe a dialed back version of a
as
circus, right?
excited. Yeah. So, but this is as big as she could go
Yeah.
in the one day she had to throw this party. But I think she was just going to make sure that Oliver felt celebrated. And it came just from a conversation about that moment.
Well, it had to be fun for Sarah's team, Sarah Maberly's team
Yeah.
to go in and kind of just, put all of those tables and things out. It'll be fun to talk with her at the end of the season to see.
Yes, please do. Because I mean, even in the script, we just like, we don't have tons of space. So, we just wrote little tables of 18 birthdays and we give like a couple
Yeah.
suggestions, but most of it is a surprise, even when we were watching and seeing the plans and having the meetings and just like in awe. It's such an amazing team, and Sarah's so, so great.
Do you remember a suggestion that you guys had on your list?
I think we had the blocks like for like the little baby,
Oh,
and then the
yeah.
balloons were
Yeah.
also on there, the 18 balloons. But yeah, it looks really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fun to watch. Definitely fun to watch. So, loved seeing the moment where Allie realizes, okay, it's game on, comes around, does a little fixing of her hair, and then Oliver, straightens up his vest. And then also the gifts themselves, where Allie gives him the book, and we get that opportunity for Oliver to give the gift to Allie that he wasn't able to give to her last season when Anne pulls it out and it's a wolf. Spoiler if you
Mhm.
guys haven't seen it or whatever. Such an amazing, that whole thing just coming together. So I'm wondering, where are they at this moment in the season as far as what the dynamic is between them? Because we do see a little bit of the nervous energy of fixing the vest and all of that and the very thoughtful gifts.
I think what we're kind of finally seeing, because the first three episodes with, Allie not sure if she's coming back and, short amount of time, and then the kind of awkwardness of like Dan having only written letters. There's a couple of the other writers were talking about memories from like being in high school where you'd like text your crush all summer but didn't see them. And then you see them again and you're like, oh, it's a little bit awkward because even though we've been talking, I haven't seen you like face to face. And so we were talking about that. So they had like some time where they were apart and there was like some awkwardness finding their groove again. And then now they've kind of found it. So it's like picking up where they left off had Allie not left. So they're sort of picking up right there. And we're sort of seeing they just have a great friendship as the baseline, which is awesome. Like it just makes their little
Yeah.
like crush, puppy love really so sweet because we see how well they know each other. And they're kind of becoming each person's go-to person and really, especially for Oliver, best friend, I think that we've seen him have, and just have these people this one person they can go to and talk to. And there's an excitement there of like, okay, now we're figuring out where we are and what we're going to do. And so, yeah, I think we're just finally getting them right on track so we can pick up where we were building last season.
Got it. Was
Yeah.
there much conversation about what needed to be in the box that he gave her, or did everybody pretty much know right away?
You know what is so crazy? We wrote it into episode 4 of last season. We
Okay.
had didn't, and then we didn't have room for it there, and we thought, okay, well, we're going to try and find a place for it to be revealed in season 12, and it wasn't. But it was bought by the props team for episode 4 of last season, so we have had it this
You've
whole
had it.
time,
Yeah.
and what it was going to be, and then so we knew it was going to be there, and then of course it was finding um, Allie's book of poetry that could be for
Yeah.
Oliver, and just kind of again a check-in of just how well they know each other. But what I really like is like that Oliver can finally be brave enough to give that to Allie because he wasn't sure where he stood with her back in her birthday. And now he does know where he
Yeah.
stands, that at least they're friends and
Yeah.
they're really good friends. So yeah, it gives him the courage to give it to her.
Do we know when he put it in his pocket? Like, have
Like
you?
when he had it there, I like
Yeah.
in my mind,
Okay.
as soon as she said it's a plan, he was like, okay, I'm gonna have some time alone with her. He
Okay.
thought maybe it was gonna be a horse ride,
Yeah.
but as soon as he knew they were gonna have like a long stretch of time, now that they're back in the groove,
Yeah.
it in my mind he went right to wherever he would kept it and put it in his pocket then to for their meeting. And then
Okay.
obviously didn't get a chance to do it in front of everyone at his
Yeah.
surprise party, but the first moment he has a moment alone with her, he was ready to give it to her.
That's what we're going with. I love it.
Yeah. So
I love Brave Oliver.
I love it. Yeah, I love it too. I mean, we've seen a lot of bravery from him riding into the fire and
I
taking on
know.
the sort of
Yeah.
aggressive Benson Hills refugee.
Well, and
And
he's had
yeah.
opportunities. I was talking with Aurori and Gina about episode 3, and he had
Mhm.
that, when he realizes that there's this difference in like academically what they've studied and all of that, that could have been something to kind of have him pull back, like, ugh.
Yeah.
And he just like goes for it. He's like, I'm gonna go find a book. I'm gonna figure Shakespeare out. And I think we really love that about him.
Yeah. Yeah, like they're bettering each other
Yeah.
in a great way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, next one. Edie says to Lucas, I thought maybe you were different, that you wanted to change the rules. So Edie's a bit disappointed in Lucas, and later he's processing that. And so he veers away from what Edward has scripted out for him towards doing what we would all call the right thing. So,
Mhm.
and we're used to seeing Lucas, when he was, fighting for Elizabeth, he was so, the grand gestures. And that's not the Lucas that we're seeing now as he's wrestling with, what does Edie mean to him? So, what does that moment reveal about where their relationship is right now?
Well, it's interesting because I do feel it is like sort of what we just said about like Oliver and Allie in Lucas and Edie, of bringing out a better side of them. We get to see sort of like better halves inspiring their partners, scene partners for now. But I think they are still finding their footing. They don't know exactly what they are to each other yet. I think we can kind of see what they want it to be, but they're still figuring out who they are in each other's lives and what influence they're going to have and who they are to each other and sort of yeah, just building that. And we get to live in that for a while, which I think is fun to sort of see them as a couple kind of trying to figure it out. But even more than that, I think it's um, also just trying to see Lucas figuring out like how he wants to be as governor and what he wants to do and how he wants to lead. And he has Edwin in his ear, kind of saying one thing of getting reelected, and then he has Rosemary and he has all the town, and he's sort of just looking for his guiding light. And when he looks to Edie, he kind of centers, he sort of finds it, and then he can be who he is. And I think we're going to see, you know, just to tease it throughout the season a little bit more of that, him sort of figuring out who he is and who he wants to be, and Edie's influence on that.
I love that. I love that she is like his center. If he can
Yeah,
just continue to latch on to that. I'm loving his arc this season and excited to see what's going to happen with Lucas and Edie, of course. So,
yeah.
all right, another big one that's been really fun to watch arc wise is Lee's arc this season. And, him and Rosemary always together, but we saw a pretty passionate Lee in episode 3 and a bit out of character. But I wouldn't say it's so much out of character for Lee because when he's really passionate about something, he's going to fight for it. And it's always comes from a good place. There
Mhm.
was an opportunity, which I know early on when Joseph first came, he and the Canfields in to Hope Valley, there was, a little bit of this relationship and bonding between Lee and Joseph. So this was really
Mhm.
nice to see the two of them come back together. Lee kind of knows what's going on with Joseph and he needs to check in with him. And so he shows up at the church. And of course, Joseph, being the amazing friend and pastor that he is, flips the script at some point and offers that same support back to Lee. And Joseph makes the comment, mercy means the most when it's hardest to give. When Lee, says, I'm sorry about what I did, but this is as far as I can go. So, first question, because we know Alysse is really good about putting things up on the chalkboard. There was a quote there by Bacon. Was that quote tied to what was happening in that moment?
It was, but was not scripted right away. So that came out that came from Elise. You completely called it. You knew. We had a tone meeting, which is like Joy, the showrunner, the writer of the episode, and the director, and we have sort of a meeting kind of late into the prep stage where most things are ironed out, but little tiny moments that, have come to Elise that she wants to bring. She brings them up and we go kind of page by page. And this is where she brought up having that quote and that lesson and connecting it because obviously knowing eventually we're going to be in that space for this moment with Joseph and Lee. So it really was intentional, but it came completely from Elise. And Joy and I were just like, yes, yes, put it on. That's great. Like it's so fun. So yeah, like that's a fun part of the collaboration is just, seeing visually um some of those themes come up because you don't always get to script them. You don't always know what will be there. So then the director gets to come in and bring it and surprise us.
And we're always going to be looking on the chalkboard at this point. Like anytime we see something on the board, we're like, all right, we're going to figure out how this is connecting. But it was such a powerful moment, as Lee's sitting there, and even though he says this is as far as I can go,
Mhm.
that he thinks about it just enough to realize, well, maybe there's more that I need to do. So the episode takes Mercy from an idea to an action in that final scene with McGinty. So can you talk about writing that moment and then seeing it play out on screen?
Yeah, I think that is really yeah, like that's just really beautifully the way you put it there, of like taking mercy and putting it into action because it's, really what's happening. And for Lee, it's like, yes, we have seen him be really passionate before, but I don't think we've seen him be so wrong. His heart was telling him something, but it was clouded because of all he'd lost. And so he went really hard at McGinty and then sort of sitting there, took him a while to get there, but sort of sitting there realized he was wrong. And then he has the moment of seeing McGinty like really human, having lost everything. There's no loan. He's at that place. So that sort of inspires him to further action, which is how can he make it right?
Hmm.
And even though McGinty has not been like an ideal citizen, I mean,
No.
he tried
Yeah.
to steal Edie's ranch and the trees from Lee's, so there's McGinty's not a saint,
Yeah.
but he took Joseph's words to heart and it like sprung him into action. And then we see Lee kind of how we know him to be and going to help McGinty. And Rosemary has her own flair of making sure that McGinty is not alone at
Yeah.
his new place. Which brings us Dr. Socks, of course.
It's so good that so much of that moment just weaves a bunch of stuff together. I mean, it's literally the restoration of the homes at the surface level. It even jogs your memory when you see, the little kitten back to the moment in the Mountie office, the comedy moment where
Yeah.
Bill and Nathan are like, you gotta believe the guy. Like, can make this up. But
Yeah.
it just really, that moment brought so many things together. It was really a good way to end episode 4, I thought, and knowing there's more to come with that.
Yeah. And I was, of course, so excited when seeing it on screen to see Dr. Sock come to
Yeah,
life. Of course,
yeah.
so excited. And I have to give Gina Gold a shout out because she named Dr. Socks and Mr. Mittens. Those
Okay.
both came from her. So I have to give her a shout out because it was awesome.
So, speaking of kind of those lighthearted moments, I'm always curious about your process. Like you're writing it because it is a period drama, but you
Mhm.
have to have those moments of levity that are kind of like built in. And there were several here. I think of even like, I am loving the Mike and May and Maisie storyline this
Yeah.
season. And while there, again, there's so much heart to that in their relationship, those three can bring humor like nobody else can. You've got Mike, who's determined to confront Maisie. And I don't know if everybody caught this. If you didn't, guys, go back and watch this. But he stands his ground with her. And then as he walks away, he says, only if you want to.
Yeah.
But then even goes into the apartment and says, May, I did it. And so when you guys are writing, first of all, were those your words or was that something that happened after the fact?
I have to say, so we had that only if you want to. And then Ben took it one step further with the May I did it.
Yeah.
And I died laughing when I saw it's so good because, it's sort of, he's like, oh, I think in the action description where I was writing it, it was when Maisie turns around, I wrote, Mike wants to faint. Like
Yeah.
he just feels so like this is out of his comfort zone. But he needs to say it because, it's his sister and they have to find some ground rules.
Yeah.
But it was nice to be able to have some lightness with them because we've seen like even with Mike, May, and Maisie in the
Yeah.
last 3 episodes, it's been pretty heavy with
Yes.
them because
Yes.
Mike is obviously from Benson Hills. Maisie lost everything. She's the mayor. She's kind of helping everyone. So this is allowing them to sort of have some lightness because really, even though the show is a drama, it's all about balance. We're always
Absolutely.
balancing.
Yeah.
So we try and make sure that there are little breaths where you can laugh and because that's the way life is too, even in really, really hard times when it can feel like one hit after another, you know, those are your people. You find your people that can help you have a laugh and and maybe not be so heavy. So it was very intentional that we did this. And yeah, early in the writing process, we were like, it's been a lot of heaviness for them. We need to make sure they have some lightness.
Mhm.
Of course, still emotional. They still have
Yeah.
some nice emotional moments, but um, in a more comedic way than just living in only the heaviness of the fire.
And it sets up a really nice moment then at the birthday party for Maisie to step up and kind of bring it all together, supporting Cooper and Toby in that moment. And even another lighthearted moment, which I don't know if it's scripted or not, when Macy's talking about losing little Mikey. And you see Elizabeth kind of do a little hip check with Allie, like you remember that one. I mean, it's those little moments are just so powerful in their own way. But it was really nice to see what happened at the little gardening area then translate into that birthday party.
Yeah, and that is an intentional callback. Aaron very early on was like, we should make sure we have a moment with Allie because Allie did lose little Jack when she was babysitting him. So she can relate to the number one rule of babysitting is don't lose the baby. But, I think it happens. It does happen. So, yeah, that was Aaron. That was like, we have to make sure we have this moment. So I'm glad you caught it.
So, speaking of Toby and Cooper, there was a really powerful moment between Minnie and Cooper when he decides that it's better for him just to leave. And golly, Natasha and Elias, the way that they played that one out, she makes the comment as Minnie, you are known and you are loved. Wow. I mean, so powerful. So, how does that moment even frame what's to come for Cooper and Toby?
That moment is like very personal to me. Another reason outside of just like that it was a birthday party episode and that there was a baby animal, which are some of my calling cards now. But more serious than that is, my sister's disabled. I grew up with a sister who has a disability, and I really took on feeling like I could not make a mistake. I was the easy one,
Mm.
and if I did, you know it was very hard and I took it was a lot of pressure on me. And I remember we just had a conversation. I don't even think it was about story in the room because a lot of stories come from some place of truth, um, especially emotional stories. And we were just talking about it and I was sharing it with Joy, and Joy's like, I think we should put this in for Cooper's story because I think it's very real and relatable to families that have this. And so, and she was reacting. She said she was reacting as a mother when she heard it. So actually, I wrote Cooper's lines, and she wrote Minnie's of what she wished she could say. And of course, I like sobbed when I first read it because it was like everything you'd want to hear. And so it kind of came from that place of like a real truth.
Yeah.
And you see it land on Cooper. I don't think he's fully, like I still think there's still a lot of weight obviously, but it's like the start of sharing it, the start of sharing that weight. And yeah, yeah, Natasha and Elias just do such a good job. And like every time I watch it I cry. I you know saw them at the rap party and I just was like, you guys, it's that scene, like it just really just felt so real. And obviously it's personal to me as well, but yeah, so I think,
What an amazing story.
yeah, the beginning of sharing the weight for him, and that'll sort of kind of it'll continue into the next few episodes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're getting ready to go into episode 5. The title of episode 5 is Growing Pains. What can you tease about who might be experiencing these growing pains?
Can I say a whole town?
Yeah.
A whole town is, experiencing some growing pains, and maybe it's like even more literal than you think it is.
Okay.
Yeah, when you think about growth.
Okay. Good to know. So not just a metaphor
No,
in
yeah,
a way.
it has like a double meaning, sort of like up in the air.
Allie, did you write another episode this season?
I did. Yeah, you'll see me again for 9.
Okay, well, that's exciting. So exciting. Allie, it's always great to talk to you. Again, another amazing episode. Guys, if you guys haven't watched episode 4 yet, be sure to jump on Hallmark Plus. You can watch it there now. So excited to see where this season goes. But thanks so much again for talking, and
Thanks for
hopefully we'll
having me.
catch you again soon.
Sounds good.
All right, bye bye.
Bye.